High temperatures have kept soybean aphids at bay for most of this summer. We talked with UNL Extension entomologist Bob Wright earlier this week about why that might change.
Well, they're out there, but this hot weather we've been having really suppresses their growth. They're like us, they like it when it's in the 70s and mid 80s. So the temperatures we're expected to have in the next couple of weeks is really going to favor their reproduction. And aphids have a very short, or can reproduce rather quickly and build up. Populations can build up or double in 3 to 4 days with favorable conditions. So soybean aphids are in a lot of soybean fields, are just at relatively low levels, but this milder weather is going to favor their buildup.
So conceivably over the next few days, where we're looking at temperatures in the mid 70s to 80s across at least southeastern Nebraska, those are favorable conditions?
Right, that's perfect weather for soybean aphids to reproduce. And so if people haven't been watching their fields, now is the time they really should get out and check their fields.
The other thing is we're late in the season when it comes to how this season has gone in terms of the advancement of the plant. So how advanced does a plant need to be before you don't need to treat?
Okay, maybe I should throw in the threshold too.
Sure.
While we're talking about it.
Yep.
When they're checking things, if we have 250 aphids per plant and the populations are increasing, which they probably are going to be doing at this time of year with this weather, that's a treatable level. And that threshold is good through the R5 stage of soybeans, which is the pod fill stage. Once you have pods where the beans are fully meeting or touching the pod walls on the upper 4 nodes, that's the R6 stage. And at that point, it's not going to pay to treat. So a lot of fields are still in the R5 stage. This is the last chance to check for soybean aphids.
Is that because of how the aphid affects the plant or what it goes after?
Right. Once you get to the R6 stage, the threshold raises a lot for soybean aphids. They're less likely to cause economic damage.
What are you recommending to treat with?
There's a variety of products. Pyrethroids are used widely. There are some other organophosphates. We have information on the entomology website that has all that information. The concern, though, at this time of year, some of the pyrethroid insecticides have relatively long pre-harvest intervals from 45 to 60 days. So before you spray, check the label and make sure that the pre-harvest interval is not going to interfere with your harvest plans.
What about spider mites as we're looking at those? Because those have been really one of the more major concerns so far this year.
Yeah, they're still out there again. This cooler weather is not going to stop them, but it'll slow them down. So as you're checking for soybean aphids, also be aware of spider mites. There isn't a lot of research on soybean spider mites, but we would expect that the same guidelines in terms of timing for soybean aphids would apply for spider mites. So once you reach the R6 or full pod stage, probably isn't going to pay to treat for spider mites either.
Perhaps I should ask the question about soybean yields and if the farmer needs to make a personal decision about if he thinks he's going to get a good enough yield to treat with anyway, on either spider mites or soybean aphids.
If it's rain-fed and it's low yield potential, that would be a consideration. You probably want to raise the threshold a little bit in that situation. If it's an irrigated field that has high yield potential, we can still probably save some yield at this time of year if you have high populations of spider mites or soybean aphids.
And this year there are some more tools that producers can use to scout their fields and decide whether or not to treat.
Yeah, there's 2 things actually. We have a speed scouting procedure for soybean aphids, so you don't have to actually count the number of aphids per plant. What you do is decide or count whether there's 40 or more aphids per plant, and if there are, you call that infested, and it really speeds up the scouting procedure. And then also we have a smartphone app that basically takes that spreadsheet and puts it on a smartphone, so you can make a decision on your smartphone using the speed scouting procedure, and that automatically has the threshold worked into there. So that's some new things we have for soybean aphids out scouting.